Jake, I'm here. I'm still in my pajamas and I'm still eating breakfast.
Beautiful. Some eggs, got some toast, got Jesus. What else do you need, man?
Got my Bible,
It is.
got my water bottle. I already have my coffee, it's gone.
Nice. I just got my
Well,
and all my stuff on my desk. Nothing to consume.
you're more put together than I am this morning. Well, we're in Psalm 14 and 2 weeks in.
Yeah, man. I didn't even realize that. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's wild. That flew by. I
Really?
mean, this is,
Yeah.
and here we are again, this is such an interesting one for David. And as I read it, I just kind of wrote, there were three verses that stuck out. One was verse 2, and I wrote it out. The Lord looks down from heaven on the children of man to see if there are any who understand, who seek after God. And I kind of love that because God's searching for those who are searching for him.
Yeah.
And I think that's fascinating. It's a really interesting separation between verse 1, where it's like the fool says in his heart there is no God, but then God is saying, I actually look down from heaven looking for those who are searching. And then I loved 5 and 6, where it says these evildoers, right? They are in great terror, for God is with the generation of the righteous. He's with us. And it says I think is referring to David saying, like, the evil people. These evil people, they would shame the plans of the poor, but the Lord is the refuge for those. And I think I love this idea that this is like justice. This is like true justice, because sometimes we think, why is there evil, or why do people get away with things? But I think this is a helpful reminder that the day will come, that God is with us until that day, and that there is salvation.
That's awesome. It's simple, it's awesome, and it's true, Um, I'm thankful that we serve a just God and a loving God, and that it's gonna work out. It's gonna be okay. Um,
Amen.
and I also love what you're saying about how He looks down from heaven on all mankind. That reminds me of in Second Chronicles. I think it's Second Chronicles 16, verse 9. But for sure, somewhere in the Bible, it says that the eyes of the Lord search to and fro throughout the whole earth,
Yeah.
looking heart is loyal or committed to him, and that it kind of ties right into what stood out to me reading Psalm 14, because God isn't looking for perfection. He's just looking for willing people. He's looking for people who will commit to him, be loyal to him, and love him. um, the first few verses where it's just talking about the fool who says there's no God, it says that they're corrupt, their deeds are vile, there's no one who does good, it says, um, and it goes on. But in verse 3, the last phrase says, there's no one who does good, not even one. And that just reminded me of Romans chapter 3, where this same idea is repeated.
That's the cross reference, bro.
Paul is writing, oh, dude, it's the cross reference. I can't talk. Yeah, the cross reference. But I just remember reading in Romans when I was a student, and I thought, oh, I'll share this with the students. But I remember reading this. I was probably like 16 or 17 at the time, and I was really excited about Jesus and what he was doing in my life. And I really wanted to be used by God. But I also struggled with just knowing how much of an idiot I am, and a sinner I can be, and all of this stuff. And then I remember reading Romans 3, where this idea Paul talks about really at length for the first, well, basically the whole chapter of Romans 3. But same words repeated in verse 10 of Romans 3, it says, as it is written, there's no one righteous, not even one. That's basically the exact same thing it says in the Psalms. And it goes on, there's none who understands. All have turned away. They have together become worthless. Later, this is the passage where he says that all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And I just remember reading that and then getting to the part where it says, but now, apart from the law of the righteousness of God, apart from the law, the righteousness of God has been made known. This righteousness is given through faith in Jesus Christ to all who believe. And it's just talking about how it's all by grace through faith. And I keep reading, but for the sake of time, I'll just stop there. But to say this, when I was a teenager reading that, wanting to be used by God, also painfully aware of just my own shortcomings and failures, I remember thinking, while some people might be bummed, like, oh man, none of us are good. None of us are really understanding and doing right. I remember being so encouraged because it meant that I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
And it meant that Billy Graham blew it big time sometimes. Even all of my heroes in the faith weren't good either, and while some might be like, dude, why is that encouraging? For me, it was super encouraging because that meant that I could be saved and I could be used by God too. I wasn't so bad that God would look at me and say, you're nothing, you're good for nothing, and everything like that. No, he's scanning, in fact. He's looking down from heaven, just looking for anybody who, like Isaiah, I think it's in Isaiah 6, he realizes that he's a man of unclean lips, and then he's just like, Lord, here I am, send me. He realizes that he's, well, a sinner just like everybody else. He also realizes that God can use him, and he can even take the brokenness that he has and turn it for his glory. And so if you listening or watching feel like, man, I'm not good enough to go to church, much less maybe be used by God or share the gospel or something like that, get that kind of thinking out of your head, because we all are in the same boat of we've all fallen short of the glory of God. However, man, if you just love him and are like, yeah, by faith, I want to receive the grace that you have for me, God can use you too. So yeah, that's what stood out or came to mind this morning.
I love that because I just this morning saw this, and I shared it Wednesday. This guy, his name's Charlie Mackesy, and he's like a really great artist, and he helps out with Alpha, and he's written this book that combines like his art and kind of his calligraphy, and he writes from the inspiration of following Jesus, but I think he writes in a creative way. And he this morning posted this, and it's exactly what we're talking about. I'll show the picture and maybe we'll send it. It's so good. He says, "Sometimes I worry you wouldn't love me if you knew how bad I was," said the boy. "We don't love you because we think you are good."
That's good.
Just another great quote of Ravi Zacharias would say, Jesus didn't come to make bad people good. He came to make dead people live.
Man, it's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll see you tomorrow, man. We have one more day in this week, and then we'll take a couple days off. And we do have a guest tomorrow.
Beautiful.
All right, man. Have a great day.
Adios.